Welcome to Groundbreakers, Stories of Rural Innovation, the podcast that takes you into the heart of agriculture, exploring the cutting-edge technologies and innovation practices shaping the cattle industry today. Hosted by Ethan Cantrell, Dealer Relations Manager at MJE Livestock Equipment, each episode brings you inspiring stories from the high plains and beyond. Whether you're a cattleman, rancher, dairyman, or simply passionate about the rural life, Groundbreakers is here to bring you stories that are transforming agriculture. Get ready to be inspired by today's pioneers in the ag world.
All right, guys, welcome back to Groundbreakers podcast. I'm Ethan Cantrell with MJE Livestock Equipment, and today I have Heather Jantz with us. I'm super excited to have you here. I'm glad you could get in on this podcast. We've been trying to get you on here for a little bit, so I'm glad that we finally got the opportunity to sit down with you and visit about some of the things that you have going on with our company.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. I'm really glad to be here today. I look forward to this.
Yeah, no, it'll be a good time. Just for all of our listeners, if you can kind of give us a background on who you are and your roles with us, and kind of you've been doing it a long time, and it's definitely a family industry. So if you kind of want to touch on that, we'll let you tell everybody about how you became part of MJE.
Sure. So my name is Heather Jantz, and I started at MJE in 2001. I went to college at K-State and worked in Kansas City for a couple of years, and then my dad said, hey, why don't you come home to the family business? So I came back in 2001, worked as a project manager, then an estimator, and then in the last 6 years or so, I've been in management at the company.
Okay. Awesome. So you've done a little bit of all of it, and now you're in charge of it. And so that's awesome. And it's really cool that for me working for this company that our owners have been there, been in the trenches and done the things that people are doing day to day. So you understand and know how things work. I think that's a huge deal when you're in the management position of a company. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to know what your employees are dealing with every day to be able to manage them appropriately and understand their trials day in and day out. So yeah, I don't think there's any better way to become a manager at a company than to climb the ladder. And we really do honor that tradition at MJE. We promote within as much as we can. We try to find the guy in the scraper that will make a good surveyor, the guy on the line at LE that would possibly make a good shop manager or lead someday. We're always watching our talent pool to see how we can move them on up.
And that's really cool from an employee standpoint too, that they know there's opportunities for growth, and they know that we like to promote within and run them up the ladder with us and take them with us. So that's a really good thing, I would think, as an employees that we have, that they have that opportunity to grow and move up with the company as it grows. So we all know MJE's been in business for over 50 years now. That's an awesome accomplishment. I'm sure your dad is super excited about that, and he probably never dreamed that it would be to the stage that it is today. But
yeah, no, I definitely don't think he ever thought we'd be where we are today. He's just one of those guys that went to work every day and worked hard and did the best job that he could do. And he built a great reputation for MJE, and that's one of my biggest responsibilities, is to protect that reputation and maintain that reputation. My dad and my brother, they both worked long, hard hours building client relationships and doing the job right. And now we just have to continue to do that every day.
For sure. Yeah. No, I agree 100% on that. So what kind of responsibility comes with leading a 50-year-old company and, a family company? What kind of responsibilities fall on you in that area?
I think one of the biggest responsibilities is just maintaining trust. We have to maintain trust with our employees, with our customers, and within our community as well. 90% of our work is repeat work, both at MJE and at MJE Livestock Equipment, as you know, as a salesperson there. Our clients have to trust that we're going to do what we say we're going to do. We've continued to do that day in and day out for 50 years, and that's why they keep coming back to us.
Yeah, I mean, reputation is something that is key, especially in an industry as big as ours, but also as small as ours. Word gets around, your reputation is all you have at some points, and so it's something definitely big to hold on to and take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we kind of are talking about different levels of that and managing the company and running everything, I'm sure there's been some challenges along the way and things that y'all have overcome. what are some big financial lessons that you've learned over the years and that maybe you could share with somebody that might help them in a similar situation?
Sure. So I think the biggest lesson that I've learned over the last 25 years is the importance of diversification. We saw a downturn in the ag industries in 2001. There was this mad cow scare. And then in 2007 and 2008, we saw another downturn. And, in 2001, we really weren't diversified at all. Ag construction was our bread and butter. And when the Feedyards and the dairies really slowed down on building, we had to go find other work. So we had to go find landfills, highway jobs, wastewater plants. And, we were getting into an industry where they didn't know who we were. So not only were we up against bidding projects where nobody knew who we were, but we were also learning how to bid those types of projects and learning how to build those types of projects. So that's one thing we really learned in 2001 and 2007, 2008 is, you've got to be diversified and you've got to keep your name out there in the industry. So we have this rule at MJE where we are bidding those projects quarterly. We have a quarterly goal of how many municipal or industrial projects we will bid. Just because even if we don't get the bid, you need the client to know that you're in that industry and they're seeing your numbers and they're seeing your names and they're seeing that you gave them a good bid. Maybe you're just a little bit too high, but it's a complete bid and a well thought out plan. So that was a big thing that we learned, and now it's just part of our corporate strategy to bid those types of projects and go get that work. We recently built an airport in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. That's something we would have never considered probably in 2001 or 2007, but today that's just something we will go do and keep our name in the industry in preparation of any kind of downturn in the ag industry.
No, for sure. That diversification, that's a really big thing to think about in a business mind. And, talking about, a company of this size is keeping it diversified and doing different areas and being applicable in different areas of construction. I think a bunch of people don't realize that we do a bunch of civil work, and we do, from highways to landfills to airports to all kinds of stuff like that. And so that's really cool that we offer that array of options to our customers, because you never know when they might be friends with somebody that's needing something else built. And so they know they built a feedlot really well, so they know the quality of work. And so it gets back to that reputation and the quality of work that we do and that our guys do out in the construction world. I think that's, once again, gets back to reputation and speaks volumes to how we've been so successful all these years.
Right. Yeah. In 2014, one type of work that we picked up was wind energy. There was a big boom on building wind farms in 2014. So we started doing that type of work, and now today, I'm looking to diversify into data centers. You hear all about these data centers going in across the nation, and there's a lot happening in Midwest because we've got these wide open spaces. So, I'm really trying to get into that field. I haven't found my way in yet, so if you're watching this podcast, please call me. But yeah, so no, I just really think that the long-term health of the company requires diversification. This is a really competitive industry, so you just have to figure out, where can I get in? How can I make a name in this field? So. For sure. And as we talk about being diversified and things like that, managing risk of the industry and of our company itself, how do you evaluate risk in such a volatile market that we're in today? I think you have to consider this project scope, the timeline, the payment structure. First thing we always do is, do we have the right people and equipment in place to go build this job? We love mass excavation jobs, so those are the jobs I'm always going to go look at first, because I know I've got the right people to build that type of job. What is the risk exposure? For my clients that I know, does this guy pay on time, or is he going to pay, 30 days late? I'm always considering the payment structure. And then, what's our schedule look like? I will tell you that I grew up in a business. When you're offered a project, you always say yes. It doesn't matter what your schedule is, and you figure it out. And that is really how we do business. But, you really do always have to consider your schedule, because you need to be realistic with your client. I mean, if you can't be there for 2 months, you got to tell your client, I can't be here for 2 months, but here's how quickly I'm going to move your dirt or build your pens or get your milking parlor up and running. So, those are the components I consider when bidding on a job and going out and getting a job.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure there's times where, you said never say no to a project. So somebody commits to a project, and then we come back to the office and y'all sit down and get talking about it and say, okay, well, now we got to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
And
I think you and I did that yesterday when we were trying to figure out how to get some calf tables out the door, right? The goal is not to avoid risk entirely. The goal is just to manage the risk and figure out how to meet your client's needs. And, I think that's something that we're really good at.
Yeah, no, I would agree completely with that. Like you said, there's always going to be risk involved in business. That's how it works, how it operates, and that's why businesses exist. And so managing that risk is very important, and doing it efficiently and being upfront and honest with your customer. And you keep them in the know, let them know what's going on. Then that's the number one thing always in my book as far as our dealers go. Yeah,
and we talked about that earlier, trust, right? I mean, we've built relationships on trust, and that's how we've been in business as long as we have. They trust us and to get the job done.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very big thing. And as my position at dealer relations manager, that's a big thing to me, is that I want our dealers to trust me. Mm-hmm. I want them to be able to call me and ask me a question. And if I tell them something, it better be the truth, or the truth as much as I know at that point. And so, and things happen, things change, but our dealers are very understanding, and they very much do trust us as a company to follow up on what we do. Right. And sometimes that gets hectic, but we always figure out how to deliver to them and keep them happy. So that's always the most important part. So as we kind of talk about more of the construction side of it, what separates stable contractors in this industry from struggling ones, and ones that maybe aren't as successful as more stable contractors?
Right. I think you have to have a lot of discipline in the construction industry. And for us, that's really understanding our niche. We can't go bid on every project that's out there, because the reality is we have a very small office staff running a really big company. So we have to we have to chase projects that fit our corporate strategy. For example, we love to move big dirt. If I see a job that has 1 million yards on it, I am going to go get that job. I'm going to figure out how to get that job. We know how to do it. We have the equipment and crews that can do it. We can ramp up quickly. I would say there's probably not another contractor in the Midwest that can do it like we do. That's a huge statement, but I really believe that statement. And understanding your niche is important, because I will see a lot of projects out there that might have 50,000 yards of dirt on it, or, a couple 100 yards of concrete on it. And you can make money doing those jobs, but the reality is that our crews and equipment, we're not structured in a way to go do those little jobs. We are structured for mass production. And same thing at LE, I think, is we're structured for big orders down there. We will do the occasional one-offs, but that's not really what we want to do. And I think it takes a lot of discipline to say, I would love to build 5 gates for this guy, but that's not really what we do here. We've got to keep our production moving, and we build gates 100 at a time. So we have that conversation a lot, as you know.
We do, yes. Yeah. Well, and it's really neat in these podcasts. I've got to visit with a bunch of people from the MJE side of it. We've talked with Aaron about concrete a little bit. We've talked with Justin and Larry about design and feedlot construction. And then we've talked with one really cool episode we had was with Ryan. And he talks about the studies that he's done as far as you were talking about moving big volumes of dirt. He paired up with K-Tech and some other manufacturers to do a study to see where we could be more efficient in moving dirt. And so I think that's really cool that us as a company is taking those steps to increase in efficiency and figure out the best way to do it to where you can show up and in 30 days you can have half again as much dirt moved as the competitor. That's a huge deal to these guys, because they're all working on a time schedule. The quicker they can get cattle on feed, the better off they are.
Yeah, we really have a lot of technology in place to track our projects. So, we make a schedule before the project starts, and it's the project manager's job to stay on that schedule, and we're tracking that weekly. We're looking at that weekly. Are we on schedule? And if we're not, what changes do we have to make? Same thing at LE. We talk about it every week. What were we supposed to build last week? Did we build it? If we didn't, we got to figure out a game plan for this week. So, yeah.
No, like I said, scheduling and staying to it and having people that take pride in it and have a personal investment in it, I think it's a huge deal. And everybody that works for the company on MJE to LE side, everybody, you can tell by talking to them that they have a personal pride in it. And if something is a day off, then they take it personal and they want to get it fixed. And that's how we've become as successful as we are, in my opinion. And I think that's a huge deal and a really cool deal for me as an employee of this company, that everybody takes so much personal interest in it, and they're personally invested in it.
Absolutely.
So, as we're kind of talking about employees and guys that have been here a while and things of that nature, and why people are personally invested in it, what keeps them? We have several employees that have been here 20 years plus on the MJE side of it. In your opinion, what keeps people here? Why do we have employees in a world today where turnover is huge, but yet we're able to hold on to employees for 20 plus years? What sets us apart, and what kind of keeps them around?
Well, I think employees stay where they feel valued and supported. I care about work-life balance. We talk about it a lot in the office. Your work is important, but so is your family. And I care that you get to go home at night and see your kids and eat dinner with them. And so that's part of it. I also think my employees know that I will invest in their careers. I have never once said no to training. If someone comes to me and they say, Heather, I want to go to this convention, here's why. I'm going to improve these software skills, or I'm going to learn about this new piece of equipment. I've never told an employee no, because if you can do your job better, MJE is better. And that's what's most important in our company, right? Is that we're growing and improving every day. So, I care about the employees, and I think they know that. And also, when you live in a small community, you're going to see your employees every day, not only at work, but at the grocery store, at the golf course, at a basketball game. And I want them to know that I care about them and they're valued at MJE. So. No,
and me speaking from the employee side of it, it's definitely doesn't go unnoticed. The amount of pride y'all take in our personal lives. I mean, we have sales meetings every Monday. We start off our meetings with, hey guys, what's going on good in your life? What happened this weekend? What are your kids doing? What was the basketball score this week, or whatever? Yeah. And that's a huge thing to me, because I've talked about it on here several times. Our company is very much a family. Mm-hmm. We know everything about everybody's business, good or bad, but we take a lot of pride in it. And if somebody's having a bad day, there's always somebody there to pick them up, and they take pride in it. It's not just we're not just coworkers. I truly feel like our team is a family. So
yeah, that's great to hear.
So we appreciate it from our side of it. So as we talk about like veteran employees that have been here for 20 plus years, obviously we're always bringing new people on, and we've got several new hires going on that are coming on board with us. It's exciting. But as you look into that, if there's somebody, looking for a job either with us or just in the industry, or looking for a job in general coming out of school, what do you think young employees' most common misunderstanding about career growth is?
Well, I think we live in a world of immediate gratification, and I think that would be the most common misunderstanding, is that you're going to just be right at the top right away, and that's just not how it works. You have to, real expertise takes time. You have to be in the field or be on the manufacturing floor and really understand how things work before you can get to the next level. I think that's the most important thing, is that our clients trust us to know what we're doing. And to know what you're doing, you have to be in the trenches and learn it, and then move on to the next step. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, for sure. And just like we were talking about earlier, we always try to give opportunities to employees to move up in the world. And as we grow, they move up with us and get in higher roles. But like you said, it's very important. You can't replace real life experience.
No, absolutely not. There's no shortcut to that. There is no shortcut. You've got to just go to work every day and learn it.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. And, it's really neat to visit with you about it and see your side of that, because I see it from the employee side. And so it's neat to see your view of it as you looking down, that we still have that opportunity to grow, and we all recognize that. And I think that's the biggest deal. It promotes somebody to come in and try their best every day, because they know there is opportunities coming up for them.
Yeah. I mean, I always consider in-house promotion before I put an ad out. I always say, look at my team and say, who could do this job? And then we'll find someone to do her job, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're hard at work every day, you're going to get promoted in our organization.
So as we're talking about employees and people moving up in our industry and in our company itself, what are some different paths that are maybe non-traditional that us as a company is taking on to help get people involved in our company and moving up as quick as possible? I know we've tried a few different things, and so what are some things that we're currently doing that are more non-traditional than just hiring somebody?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question, because, our workforce development is a big part of my job. We've recently started an apprenticeship program at MJE and at MJE Livestock Equipment. We have welders that are apprentices, heavy equipment operators, concrete finishers, and what we're doing is creating a pathway for these existing employees to learn more about their job. So take, for example, our heavy equipment operators. I was on the phone with both of them this morning. Oh, and a diesel mechanic. He's also in the apprenticeship program. But I have a phone call with them once a week to just talk about how it's going. We do on-the-job training for them. So they learn. For example, our heavy equipment operators, they will learn how to run different types of equipment. They'll learn how to maintain that type of equipment. They take classes such as an OSHA 10 class, and then they'll take some math classes so they can better understand surveying and laying a job out. This is just what I've found is it's really hard to get people to come to work as a heavy equipment operator or a concrete laborer, because that's hard work. But if they know that they're going to be trained on the job and have a pathway forward, they will come to MJE and do the work. So we're really loving the program. I see a bright future for the program. And
that's cool that, somebody in your role, you're definitely at the top of the ladder on our company, but you still take interest in running this apprentice program and the internship program to where you're working with these young guys every day. And like I said, you call them once a week and have a conversation with them on how it's going. The fact that you take that interest to work with them, I mean, that speaks volumes to how you run the business and how much personal pride you take in the future growth of our company.
Oh, I appreciate that. But to be honest with you, I just really enjoy it. Like, I like talking to these young people and learning about what they're doing. I always ask them first thing when we get on the call, like, what machine are you running today? What job site are you on? I'm interested. I want to know those things. So, yeah.
So as we've talked today, it's very easy to tell that you wear a lot of different hats, and you do have a lot of roles, not just with our company, but with numerous stuff, whether it's community-wide or whether it's statewide or whatever's going on. There's lots of different roles that you fulfill, and I don't know how you schedule it all and keep it all going. I'm sure it's hectic at times, but it seems like you do a great job at it, and you're always on top of it. So I give you a lot of credit for that. But one really cool accomplishment that you have is that you work with the Kansas Contractors Association, and you've become president of it. I mean, that's a huge deal. That's for the whole state of Kansas. What does that mean to you, and how do you see that helping you in our industry as well?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a huge honor to represent the contractors across Kansas. KCA is the voice of heavy construction at the State House. So I have served on this board for 9 years. I was treasurer, then I was vice president, and this year I'm president. I'll serve a 1-year term, and then I will no longer be on the board. But I do think they'll still let me attend board meetings since I am a past board president. I sure hope they will, because I know I'll miss it. But I guess I'll talk a little bit about my early dreams. and how it connects to what I'm doing now. So when I got my master's degree at K-State in rhetoric and composition, and I wanted to be a speechwriter in DC. I never wanted to be the speaker, as you can probably tell. This isn't my cup of tea, but I did want to be the person behind the scenes writing the speeches. And so then when I got the opportunity 9 years ago to serve on the Kansas Contractors Association's board, I was excited. I really wanted to do it. So my goal as KCA president is to ensure contractors have a strong voice in the political discussions. At KCA, we work closely with KDOT and legislature to ensure that state funding is there for transportation. What we do not want is hills and valleys in funding. We really need funding to be steady, so we have a steady pipeline of work in the industry.
Oh, for sure. And so it's really cool that you get to be the voice for the contractors and, people that are probably competitors for you, but you're still their voice up in legislation and, in the government side of it. And you're looking out for their best interest because you've been there, you know what they're struggling with, you know what they're going through. So I think that's really cool that they have a president on their board that has been there and operates a company day to day that deals with these problems, and you know what these guys are facing. Kind of talking about some of the challenges that contractors face, what would you say the biggest challenges are that a contractor in Kansas or even nationwide would face in today's world?
Well, I think the biggest challenge from a KCA perspective is just keeping that funding steady. So we're going to introduce legislation to protect transportation funding. And what that's going to do is build roads and keep your roads safe. These are the roads that your kids are on school buses on every day. These are the roads that take your crops to the co-ops. These are the roads that you drive to work on every day. And we need safe, reliable infrastructure in Kansas. So when you see that on the ballot in November, please vote yes.
Of course, and that's really neat to get your side of it, like I said, because not only are you on the legislation side of it, but you're also on the construction side of it. So you see both sides of it. Obviously, you have family. Your kids are driving up down these same roads, so you want them as safe as anybody else does.
That's right.
And so as we're talking about kind of the civil side of construction that we touch on every now and then, what's the biggest misunderstanding that you would say is out there about heavy civil contractors?
I think that people see feedyards and dairies and they don't realize the scale of the planning and coordination behind that type of project. We spend months designing a project. At NJE, we are a turnkey contractor. So, we meet with the client when he first has the idea, I want to build a feedyard or a dairy. We might even help that client find the ground to build the project. Then we do the design work. That takes months, just understanding the client's needs and, what is his vision at the end. We get that vision down on paper. Then we have to do the estimating and the planning and the proper phasing of the project. All of that just takes a great deal of brain power and time. So that's one of the big misunderstandings I think people have is that, how complicated could it be to build a feedyard or dairy? But the truth of the matter is these are big projects. We recently built a project over by Kinsley, Kansas. It's a greenfield project, a huge project that we built there. And it took months, even a year, to plan that project and execute it in the way we did. So
that's awesome to talk about, and the amount of planning that does go into something like that, I'm sure, would blow most people away. They don't realize, they just think you go out there and start building and just figure it out as you go. It's definitely not the case. We wouldn't have been in business as long as we have if that's how we operated.
That's right.
So there's tons of people in the office that work every day on the planning side of it, estimating, all that stuff goes in. Probably as much work on the backside before it starts as whenever it actually does start.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So in our industry, and as we're talking about challenges and risks that we've all been discussing throughout this podcast, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see manufacturers facing today rather than contractors?
Well, I'd like to talk about a couple of challenges that we face. First being workforce shortages. We're in Montezuma, Kansas, which is pretty rural and remote, a town of 900 people. but I have 30 people working at MJ Livestock Equipment, and we have to pull our workforce from surrounding communities. So we are really competing with the packing plants and just other businesses surrounding the area. So one of the other challenges we face at MJ Livestock Equipment and at MJ both is tariffs. Right now, we can see that steel prices are on a complete tear. We, in fact, had a conversation this morning about having to raise prices again because of steel prices. We don't want to do that at MJ or at MJ Livestock Equipment. We do not want to raise our prices. We are not raising our prices so we can make more money. We are raising our prices because we have to pass on tariff costs. Right now, the biggest driver of increased steel prices is a 50% tariff on steel. So, we have no choice but to pass that on. And I think really educating our clients about that is difficult. It's a challenge. And so and just the whole tariff situation is something that we really have to watch every day, both for MJE, because we have price increases on rebar, on cast vent barns, on steel in general for our fence. We really have to watch that every day to make sure that we're protecting MJE, MJ Livestock Equipment, and ultimately our clients. So at MJE and MJ Livestock Equipment, we use American steel, but tariffs still affect our industry because when there is a large tariff on foreign steel, it drives the demand up for American product. And when the supply tightens, prices have to go up. That's just how the economy works. So even though we may not be purchasing steel that has a tariff on it, we are seeing higher prices in the American market.
No, and that's a great thing to look at, and something that most people probably don't think about or probably don't realize that those tariffs are affecting domestic steel as well as imported steel. So I'm really glad you brought that up and talked about that. That's something very important to our industry and talking about prices and things that we struggle with that directly affects us. Well, and on that note, talking about price increases and nobody wants to pay more for anything, but unfortunately everything is going up in price. And one thing that I see from my side of it, working with our dealers, is that my higher ups, you and the other people in charge that are making those decisions, y'all are always very mindful of absorbing it as long as possible. Mm-hmm. And, trying to ride it out and be as fair to the dealer as possible. And we absorb a lot of costs that they never see on their side. They never see the price increase of it. But eventually there's a point to where we have to keep it up if we're going to stay in business and be there for them in the years to come. So our dealers seem to be very, very accepting of that, and they know that we're looking out for their best interest and trying our best to keep it as fair as possible. But unfortunately, in today's world, everything's going up in price. So that's something that we get to deal with every day.
Yeah, and I think MJ clients understand it too. And it goes back to that issue of trust. These clients we've been working with for 20, 25 years, they know that we are going to build their job in the most economical way that we can because we've been doing it for 50 years. But there comes a time where you just have to pass that cost on. And they're seeing that in other areas of their business. So they understand it. I'm not saying they like it, but they understand it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the biggest deal. Like we said, gets back to trust and that reputation. And if your customers trust you, then that's the most important thing. You can always work things out. It's a lot easier whenever they trust you as a company or as a contractor working with them. That's what keeps our business going and keeps the world going around. Mm-hmm. So talking about your role here at MJE, obviously we're in a construction industry and in the feedlot industry, dairy industry, all those different industries, they're very much male dominated typically. Has there ever been a point where you felt underestimated as a woman in that position, or felt like that somebody underestimated your ability because you're a woman in a male-dominated industry?
I will say yes, I work in a primarily male-dominated industry, but, my dad and my brother have just always valued hard work, and that's more important to them than the gender norm of the industry. In our office is primarily women, both at MJE and at LE. And, we just value that the hard work and your ability to get the job done and get it done right. It doesn't matter to us if you're a man or a woman. If we're doing our jobs, that's what matters. I worked as a project manager for 7 years, then an estimator for 15 years, and then I worked and moved into management. Our estimating department is all women, our HR department, our accounting department, all women. And, what's important is that you just do the job right and on time, and we get that done every day.
So as we've talked about being a female in a male-dominated industry and working up the ladder that you've climbed up in the construction company and then running the LE company as well, what kind of advice would you give to a young female that was either interested in construction or even agriculture in general?
I think the first thing I would say is don't assume you don't belong. Go to work every day like you deserve to be there, because you do. And then just do the work. Learn about your industry, understand your product, understand your client, work hard to just be the best at your job, and you will be accepted. No one's going to turn away someone that is good at their job.
For sure. No, I couldn't agree more. And as we kind of talk about people growing in their careers, and we've touched on that from the veteran employees that we have to the young guys. And let's kind of talk about MJE's future and what you see going on at MJE in the future and LE in the future. What excites you most about the future years coming up for the company?
Well, we've had a great 5 years at MJE and MJE Livestock Equipment. The economy has been good, despite, you hear grumblings, the economy's not good, but I would say in our business, we've had a great 5 years and we're just growing every day. I'm always looking for ways to improve our company. I'm always looking for a new product or a new type of construction project, linking back to the importance of diversification. At LE, we always are asking our clients, what's a problem we can solve for you? I think that's an important part of our corporate strategy overall. We say that to our construction clients as well. What types of problems do you have in your facility that we can solve? And then we put our teams to work finding that solution. So, that's one way I see us growing, is that we're problem solvers in the industries. We really want to partner with our clients to make their life easier. So we're going to grow in that way. I mentioned data centers earlier. I'd really like to get into that field. If we can find our way in, we're going to do it. I think there's opportunity in wastewater recycling, in feed yards. We currently have a system where we can recycle the lagoon water and feed it back to the cattle. I think that is huge in Southwest Kansas, where we are right smack dab in the beef belt, but we have water concerns every day. If we can conserve water in that way at the feed yard and the dairy and give that water to our crops, that's great for everyone, right? That's good for our economy out here. Biogas. Biogas has been a big part of the last 5 years at MJE. We've been building biogas facilities at hog farms and dairies, and we are looking for a way to build biogas facilities at a feed yard. And what that's doing is taking that manure, turning it into gas, put it in the gas pipeline, so they can either use it at their facility or they can sell it back into the market. That just gives our clients another revenue source. So they're getting better, and so are we at the same time.
And that's really cool that from a construction company side of it, that y'all are looking into things like that and finding ways for your clients to make more money off the same operation that they were already operating. So that's gets back to that trust deal. Your customers know that you're looking out for their best interest. You're trying to find ways for them to be more profitable with the same amount of land or the same operation that they're already running. Mm-hmm. That's super cool. And once again, goes back to why you have repeat customers, because they know you have their best interest in mind and you're always looking to find the best option for them. So as we talk about future plans for the company and the industry and what all's going on, and we've talked about it from the state level, we've talked about it from construction level of it, future plans for our company, what kind of company do you see MJE as in, say, 2035?
Yeah, I think we're going to get bigger and better by staying disciplined, investing in our people, and continuing to serve our communities well. It's important to me that we do all of this while maintaining our integrity and keeping our culture strong, keep investing in our employees, knowing that they're valued, and most importantly, keep providing a great product to our clients. They're going to get quality product and problem solving out of us every day in 2035, just like they do today.
No, and that's awesome. It gets back to reputation. We're still going to have the same reputation we've always had and just grow and improve on it. So I think that's a really cool deal, and I'm super excited to see where this company goes. MJE and LE, both of them, I see it growing exponentially and serving nationwide. We already have dealers nationwide, so I just see that getting bigger and better from our side of it and the construction side as well. We've talked on a lot of different aspects today, and we've taken a bunch of your time, and I appreciate your time being with us and talking with us. Always learn something every time we sit down and talk, so I'm sure our listeners have learned, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to work with us.
Ethan, I want to thank you for having me on your podcast. I've listened to all of your podcasts, and they're really good, and I appreciate what you're doing for our industry and for our company. And, I hope we get to do this again in 10 years. Thanks a lot.
I agree, and thank you for being here. As we've talked about, your schedule is super full, so we appreciate you taking some time out and visiting with us, letting the listeners in on a little bit of the secrets of our company and how we've become the company that we are. I appreciate you being here today, and I highly suggest if anybody has any questions to reach out to me or reach out to Heather, either one. We'd both be more than happy to answer anything that you have relating to anything we've talked about today. And be sure and check us out on mjlivestockequipment.com and MJE's website as well. Reach out to us, and we'll do whatever we can to help out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Streamline your cattle handling with the portable load chute from MJE Livestock Equipment. Built to last, our chute offers versatility and efficiency, integrating seamlessly with your existing setups. Perfect for ranchers on the move, this tool ensures a safe and efficient loading process every time. Upgrade your operation with MJE Livestock Equipment, where quality meets durability and performance. See it for yourself at a dealership near you. Find your nearest dealer at mjelivestockequipment.com and click Dealers. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Groundbreakers, Stories of Rural Innovation. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest trends and stories from the world of ag. If you have any questions, feedback, or stories you'd like us to cover, please reach out to us through social media or through our website. Don't forget to subscribe to Groundbreakers on your favorite podcast platform and stay tuned for more inspiring stories and insights each month. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries and pioneering new frontiers in agriculture. This has been Groundbreakers, Stories of Rural Innovation. Thanks for listening.